Hi, everybody. Jack O'Malley here with you on a Friday, kind of a gray day here in the North Country. And definitely want to touch base with you here on some events of the day and things in the news. So let's start with COVID. Then I'm going to, we'll just start. I'll roll through them here. Of course, cases are an issue. I was reading where 8 hospitals in the state are saying they're basically full right now. I will say what I've heard and seen, read, is that most of those hospitals are in that Southeast Michigan area again. Not to say that the other hospitals aren't having an issue. I don't know if you can hear Duke down there meowing, but he's with me. It'll be interesting. One of the doctors, I don't know which hospital he was with, I think Beaumont, but don't quote me on that, said it will be difficult while 25% of the population is fully vaccinated. It's a far cry from where we need to be to get the herd immunity numbers to a point where the pandemic is seen as under control. Now, I find that interesting because I remember months ago when the term herd immunity was brought up, there were people who just, I remember Dr. Khaldun saying that was inhumane to discuss herd immunity. And, you know, as I look back, I think they thought we were talking about that we were going to have like measles parties, where we were just going to go out and make sure everybody got the COVID. No. You know, as you look at this, did we stay so locked down that people weren't out getting the COVID? Because we need to have some of that now. Also with the vaccine, we're raising that up. But herd immunity unto itself, could we? I guess my question is, and I don't know the answer to this. I think I'm right, but I might not be. Some of these other states that were less restrictive, having similar numbers, was it maybe because they did have people who they had a constant number of illnesses as opposed to tons of surges like we're having? Could that part be our problem, that we were so locked down? That we're locked down, no, hey, we flattened the curve, yay, let's open it up. Surge. Why? Because we were so restrictive, we were keeping people away from the bug. And the bug is perfect. The bug is natural. All right? Just a thought. Henry Ford's, they have a predictive models indicator. And they believe that we're seeing some heavier volumes. Those will continue for another 2 weeks, and then we'll start to see a decline. And I guess our hospitals are pushing 90% capacity, is what we're hearing. But we are seeing already a dip the last few days in the number of cases. So again, anybody who thought we could hide from this, or anybody who thought we could somehow beat the virus, it's hard to do, right? Nature, it's a virus. Could we manage it? Maybe. Could we beat it? Probably not. So just some interesting things. And then the governor today, thankfully, hasn't locked us down, but is taking the recommendations of the CDC and a couple of others, and is now asking for mask wearing from 2 years old up. It was 5 years old and up. So 2, 3, and 4 year olds are now expected to wear masks. Good luck with that. And I can just see on the floor, pick it up, put it on. The little older kids sharing the masks. I understand what they think they're going to accomplish, but I don't think it's going to happen. Good luck with that. Let's see here. What else is going on here? Oh, this is one I thought was interesting. All right, I'll go to this first. Redistricting committee. I don't know how many of you know about redistricting, but it happens every 10 years. Constitutional since the beginning of the country. Every 10 years, you redistrict because we see where the population is so that we can deploy and find our state representatives, our state senators, our U.S. representatives or congressmen and women, and our U.S. senators, right? So that happens. And most states, and by Constitution of the United States, State legislatures are supposed to do that job and have. And the people in Michigan felt there was a group that felt that the Republican controlled legislature was being too biased in its districting and gerrymandering's discussed. Well, there was a lawsuit that made it all the way to this U.S. Supreme Court saying basically that same thing. Well, you can't have this kind of redistricting because it's political. And the Supreme Court, I can't remember the exact wording, but their comment was, well, that's the way the Founding Fathers wanted it. Redistricting is a political decision. So they wouldn't hear it. So I thought that was fun. But the people of Michigan put it on the ballot. And they voted it in. Said, okay, we've got to have this independent commission to redistrict the maps. And there's lots of questions. The first time through, there's going to be some arguing. It's the law of the land, so we got to get through it, right? So there was a poll taken and by the redistricting commission to say, hey, do people even know we're here? 75% of the respondents, now granted it's a poll, so who knows, but 75% of the respondents said they never heard of the redistricting commission. Now that scares me because in 2018, they voted it in overwhelmingly. But yet, according to this poll, 75% of Michiganders don't. We voted on that? That's scary. I laughed out loud when I read that. So the redistricting commission is, well, we've got some work to do to get people to figure this out, know who we are. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Oh my gosh, 75% said they never heard of the redistricting commission, but yet it got voted in like by 70% of the vote. So just made me laugh. A couple things on my front. Yesterday, I'm on the oversight committee, and we voted. There was a resolution by the chair, Steve Johnson, to grant our oversight committee subpoena power, specifically so that we can get Director Gordon in to find out about the non-disclosure agreement and the $155,000 payoff. So we voted it out, and it's now headed back to the House, and I'm assuming next week we'll vote on it, and then our committee will have the authority to issue subpoenas. So just wanted you to know that that's moving forward. I also introduced a bill yesterday, Thursday. It'll be read in next week. I'm calling it a whistleblowers bill, but I know it was introduced last year and didn't go anywhere. I think it might have even gotten vetoed by Madam Governor. But this bill says that state employees have a right to talk to legislators and not have that discussion held against them or any retaliation. So I call it a whistleblowers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a true whistleblower, something illegal. Maybe a state employee comes to me and says, hey, there's an issue, this, and I follow up on it, and then their supervisor doesn't like it and retaliates. Well, that would be wrong, right? So this bill would say, hey, I could have a constituent come to me with a valid gripe, and you cannot retaliate against them. And I think it only makes sense. So we'll see how that all plays out. Had discussions today, a big issue across the state, rural broadband. I was talking, listening to hear what they're doing in Mason County. So I just want you to know that those are issues that we're working on. There's money in all of this federal stuff. So I think hopefully that money will be flowing out here as the budget talks and supplementals and all that stuff move forward. And I think that's all going to start happening next week. One thing I want to talk about that's also in the news today that I thought's interesting, and I throw it out there. I've mentioned it before, I think, but I'm going to throw it out there again because I'm going to start talking about it more. The Michigan has term limits. My term limit is 6 years, 3 2-year terms. Our state senators are 2 4-year terms. Federal cannot have term limits right now because it's against the Constitution, and so on. So just so you know, I forget how many states actually have term limits. I'm going off memory here, so I could be wrong, but I think it's 11 states have term limits. Michigan is the most restrictive with that 6 and 4. And once you're termed out in those areas, you can never run again. And there was a group of former lawmakers, 10 Democrat, 10 Republican, who have filed a lawsuit saying that it's unconstitutional to have these term limits for this reason and that reason. A court denied that claim. This group now has taken that same lawsuit to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, saying, no, we need this. And I'm going to tell you, I know there's the throw the bums out mentality. And I know that in Washington, we once celebrated John Dingell's 60 years in office. 60 years. So I see where there's that frustration. I voted for term limits back when it was on the ballot. I now see the error of my ways. We've had 20, 30 years, whatever it is now, with term limits in Michigan. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to talk more about this in months to come, in weeks to come, but our term limits are too restrictive. 6 and 8, 2 4-year terms for senators. I'm not saying we shouldn't have term limits. I don't think we'll ever get rid of term limits in the state of Michigan, but unless they win that court suit. But I think we need to extend them. And I'm going to tell you why. This is my second term. I'm just figuring out how things work, to be honest with you, right? I'm like, oh, okay, that and this and that. And institutional knowledge. Well, in another 2 years, if I'm lucky enough to get reelected, 6 years, everything I learned is gone. Now we start over. And that can be utilized by the swamp. That can be utilized by lobbyists who know that, and I haven't had this happen to me yet, but I've heard from other lawmakers that have been termed out that they had people in the bureaucracy say, well, you know what? We can wait you out. I'm going to be here 20 years. You're not. So what I'd like to see down the road is an extension. My thought is, long story short, 16 years, 16 to 20, serve them any way you want. Because right now, what if I like being a representative? What if I wanted to stay here 8 or 10 years, let's say, if the people wanted me? Maybe I wanted to stay here 16. But right now, if you want to stay using that information you get, you go from the House, you've got to run for the Senate, right? So there's a lot here. I guess my point is, and I've got so much more I can say on the term limit situation. I want you to know that I'm going to be talking about that more, because we need to not just have the knee-jerk reaction, to throw the bums out. There is a discussion here, and I think part of the reason Michigan is as screwed up as it is because we have such restrictive term limits. I've even had educators tell me, that, you know what, part of the problem is education and fixing education and the budgeting and all that is so complicated. But after 6 years, we got to start over with new people coming in. So that's what I'm talking about. So it's not just throw the bums out. Is this an effective way to run our government? So I know there will be people who just totally think I'm crazy, and I get that. But I'm trying to talk to the people who are reasonable. All right. So I'm going to talk more about that, but I threw it in there because this group, 10 Dems, 10 Republicans, are going to the Circuit Court of Appeals to say, hey, no, wait, we've got to get rid of term limits in Michigan. So plus, if we got rid of term limits, maybe we could then vote them back in, but fixing and extending and that sort of thing. So anyway, more to talk on that in the weeks to come. So, all right, I've gone a little bit long, lots going on. It's Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll talk again on Monday.